What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hope everybody's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, and I really just think they are the biggest wild card team in the entire league, it feels like at this point, because they could be solid, they could be mid, they could be somewhere in between, I guess, but they have some holes. They have some pretty important strengths. There's a lot of new things going on with the team, and they're super hard to predict, but I want to break them down to see where they're going to go this season in my guess. Ultimately, I want to know, what do you think the Chargers do this season? What are your expectations? Playoffs, fringe playoffs, what's the thought process there? Let me know in the comments. And are you excited about Jim Harbaugh as the coach? Because I very, very much so am. I think he's a big plus. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, the schedule, all that good stuff. Before I do, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you like this kind of content. Please like the video, but let's talk about the offense and let's talk about the strengths. First, but I guess I would say having a new coach that isn't a moron is important for both the offense and the defense. So check those boxes, right? So I think that's going to be good. The energy's there. And the identity of the team is much, much different. They're going from this ballsy, out-of-control team that didn't have a plan to more structure, more smash mouth, built in the trenches. That's the idea that they're going to run with. And of course, they have a superstar quarterback in Justin Herbert. So I think ultimately the biggest strengths of the offense, obviously, is the QB is awesome. They have a probably top 10 O-line when you add Joe Alt to the right tackle spot, Slater at the left tackle, and then you have decent to quality on the interior. Could be really good, right? You have smash mouth running backs like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins is a flyer. Maybe he could do something. But the weaknesses of the offense, and a lot of the weaknesses on this team are just because they're unproven. We don't know what we're going to get from these particular roster spots. Wide receiver is the biggest one on the offense. Everybody knows that. It's been talked about many, many a times. But who's going to be the wide receiver one? I personally think it's probably going to be Josh Palmer. But does Ladd McConkey, does he prove that he can be a wide receiver 2 or better? Does he have a good rookie season? He could be a yak monster. Who knows? We didn't really see him explode in college because Georgia just wasn't throwing the ball like that. So what happens there? Does Quentin Johnston prove that he's not ass like he was last year? Can he catch a ball? Who knows? Maybe he has a big bounce back year, different scheme. Maybe that does some things, but your hands are your hands. So if you're not catching the ball, nothing else really matters. Then you have like Darius Davis, who I think has potential, and today against the Cowboys, 70-yard rushing TD. He's a gadget guy that they should be using a lot. Yeah, so I think the offense should be solid. Should be solid as long as things kind of go accordingly. And I just think the thing that makes me feel so eerie about them right now is this feels like the first offseason in forever where we're going into the regular season and there's like no injuries. Nothing notable really going on. Everybody's pretty much healthy. Nobody went down in training camp or in a preseason game. So that makes me feel like, this doesn't feel like it's been for the Chargers the last 15 years. So it's a good sign, but I don't know. It just feels weird as a Chargers fan myself. So I think that the offense should be solid. I don't expect it to be top 10 particularly. But I don't think they need to be a top 10 offense to get to where I think that their potential is for this season, which I think that they are a fringe wild card team. They're going to be one of those teams, I believe, that's fighting for one of those last 1 or 2 wild card spots. And I think that's a fair estimation because they're in sort of a rebuild, starting over, new coaching, new structure, new GM. There's a lot of different stuff that's going on. So to expect them to flip it around in 1 year and make them Super Bowl contenders, not feasible. And I don't want to put that pressure. That being said, the defense. The defense, I like the front 7. The front 7 is really nice. Obviously, you have Joey Bosa. Khalil Mack is a freaking monster. Tui Tuipulotu, it was awesome as a rookie. You're going to hopefully get another year of improvement out of him on the edge rushing. Morgan Fox is a good pass rusher. So they've got really 4, like I would almost say like really good to elite pass rushers. And then the linebacking core, Denzel Perryman, he's back after, he was a Charger when he started his career, and then I believe he went to the Raiders, and then he was a Texan, and he's a good run-stuffing linebacker. I think that's going to be something that is important because under Brandon Staley, this team was terrible against the run forever. They were terrible on third down. They couldn't get off the field. And there's a reason that they were like 28th in points per game allowed. I'm sorry. I don't care if my offense is amazing. If my defense is giving up 30 every single week, we're not winning. It's pretty simple. Or we're not going to win very often. So I think the front seven is, I like Dayan Henley. I forget how you say his first name. I think giving him an actual opportunity that isn't special teams is going to be fun, because when we saw him play last year in the preseason, he was really good. So I think, him getting an opportunity is something that intrigues me as a fan, because he could be really good. He flies around the field. He's a ball hawk. Well, not a ball hawk, but he's a playmaker. So I think I want to see something from him. That being said, the weakness on this team is the secondary is very unproven. Obviously, you have Derwin James, who's been, one of the top 2 or 3 safeties in the league for the last 6-7 years, probably. But, he has been on a little bit of a decline. Call it what it is. But maybe that was scheme. Maybe that was Brandon Staley putting him in 14 different positions every single, series. Maybe, just dial it back for him. Simplify his role a little bit. And then, of course, he can do all these other things, but just simplify it a little bit. Maybe we get a little bit of that. Alohi Gilman had a nice year last year, but the corners is where it's really, really unproven. Asante Samuel Jr. is a solid corner. Is he a cornerback 1? I don't know. Christian Fulton struggled in Tennessee. Had a lot of potential coming out of college, but is he going to be able to prove that, new team, new him, like maybe that's what opens him up? I don't know. That's a question that's to be answered. Dean Leonard, does he show that he can play? Is Taylor, is he going to be able to play? Like, are those guys going to take a step forward? Or like, what do we get from these guys? These are just mainly the starters. I don't think the depth is that great in the secondary. But it's a lot of young guys and a lot of unproven players. And that leaves it to me as a weakness, because we don't know what we're going to get. And that's a flaw. I just think the biggest thing with them is who's going to be the one to emerge. One of them or multiple of them are going to have to step up and emerge into the spotlight. So who does it? I don't know. Does one of them do it? I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see. So ultimately, your strengths, you should have a pretty good O-line, should have a run game for the first time in Justin Herbert's career. You should be able to stop the run at a better clip and hopefully get off the field on third down more often. The overall philosophy of the team should be a complete flip of the switch from what they've had the last 5 years. So that's going to be a thing that I think pushes them in a positive direction when you have a leader at the helm that escalates that process. So the schedule is a little bit of a doozy. They've got one stretch during the season that looks like a gauntlet, but ultimately I think that they have like 8 easy games, and I'm calling them easy, but I think that makes them super winnable, or they should be the favorite. You have week 2 against Carolina, should be a dub. Week 3 against Pittsburgh, they should win that game. Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback right now. Week 6 against Denver, they're in the very beginning of their rebuild. Week 7 against Arizona, the defense still has a lot of holes to fix. But I do think that as a team that could be a little bit of a surprise this year. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. Week 8 against the Saints. Derek Carr's been trash the last couple of years. I don't believe in that. So until I get proven wrong by that, I'm not going to put any faith into him, because I was a big believer on the Saints bandwagon the last couple of years. So not doing that again. Week 10 against Tennessee should be a pretty winnable game. Week 16 against Denver, very winnable game. Week 17 against New England, who is starting over, that's a winnable game. So ultimately, I think in those easy games, is what I'm calling them, they should go 6-2. I think it's a fair estimation. You're going to have bad weeks, bad games, things like that are going to happen, but I think 6-2 is fair for those. But the 9 games that they have that I think are tough dogfights, and they're probably not favored in, or could be, like it's like 50-50 for some of these. I think they're just going to be tough due to different circumstances. Like week 1 against the Raiders. I think the Raiders defense is going to be vastly improved. I think Minshew's better than Aiden O'Connell. They're going to get an improvement there. I think Zamir White could be good. There's some good things going on in the Raiders. Antonio Pierce seems to have that team like clicking, at least in the locker room. So I'm excited to see what the Raiders do this year, but I think that's a tough game for the Chargers. There always is. I mean, you look at last year, they lost by 60-plus points. So or around 60 points, whatever it was. Week 4 against the Chiefs, it's the Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Andy Reid, defending back-to-back Super Bowl champs. Say less. Week 9 against the Browns. The Browns, who knows what happens with Deshaun Watson, of course, if he can even return to form. But that defense should be pretty good. They were a good team last year. I expect them to be kind of similar of the same that they were last year. Week 11 against Cincy, and this is where things get really rocky in terms of the strength of schedule. Cincy could be solid again. They were, in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Does Jamar Chase get paid, and does he show up to camp? I don't know. Could be interesting, but I still think it's a tough game. Week 12 against Baltimore. Baltimore, that defense is going to be awesome again. Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. Say less. Week 13 against Atlanta. Atlanta's been doing things, especially in free agency. They bring in Justin Simmons, Matt Judon. So they've kind of bolstered up that defense a little bit. Obviously, you had Kirk Cousins. This could be an explosive year 2 for Bijan Robinson. Drake London's finally got a quarterback. Kyle Pitts, same thing. I think Atlanta's going to be really good this year. That's a tough game for the Chargers. Week 14 against Kansas City again. I already went down that road. Week 15 against Tampa. I think Tampa was a quality team last year that found their identity, and they're going to be a tough, hard-nosed team that's gritty. So I think that's going to be a game where you're going to see a lot of the same philosophies clash. So I think it's going to be a tough game. Week 18 against the Raiders. That's going to be a tough game, just like week 1. But that week 11 through 15 where you play Cincy, Baltimore, Atlanta, KC, and Tampa, that's a tough stretch. My hope for them in this 9-game stretch right there that they're going to play of tough games, I would hope they're like 4-5 so that you could be 10-7 fighting for a wild card spot. I don't think they'll win the division or anything like that until they prove that they can do it. I'm not falling for it. So ultimately, if you can split some of these games, win some tough ones, dominate the ones that you should win, you'll be in good contention to make the playoffs. And I would think that puts them right around 10-7. Is that crazy? Let me know in the comments if you don't think that's possible, or if you think they could be even better, or what you think the record will be. I think 10-7 is kind of that spot where I'm comfortable if I had to put money on this, saying 10-7. But ultimately, it should be a new energy for the Chargers in that locker room, for the fan base. You got a new coach finally that isn't a complete rookie and doesn't lose the locker room. He's a man. He's a leader. It's just that simple. That's going to be good stuff to watch. I can't wait to see if they have a run game, how good the O-line is, what the front seven looks like, who breaks out. Because somebody has to break out for it to reach a playoff team. So, does someone break out in the secondary? Does somebody break out in the wide receiving core? Let me know in the comments who you think the breakout player will be. I personally think Josh Palmer could have a great year this year. He's got the most history with Herbert out of anybody on the roster. And he's a good receiver. Is he a wide receiver 1? Probably not. But he could still have a really damn good year. But anyway, let me know in the comments how you're feeling about the Chargers going into this season. I think it's going to be a vastly different team than we've seen in the past several years. And I can't wait to watch it. So yeah, that's pretty simple. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Really, really appreciate y'all. But yeah, it should be interesting for the Chargers. But thanks for watching. I'm done. Peace.